Oh, what's that I see? A 1 hour running time? Okay. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. As I said on the Dexter review, um, these are behind a bit. Everything I sort of got pushed back this week because I am living in Pasadena, California, and sort of having to deal with the ongoing fires that are happening, making my way through that. So my apologies for that. And I do send my best out to anybody some of my neighbors and friends who have been affected by the ongoing fires that are occurring out here. The latest episode of Silo is a doozy. It is called The Safeguard. It is episode 9, which means that the final episode is going to have a lot of things to sort of clean up. We spend time equally in 17 and 18, but we pick up at 17 doing sort of a backstory of the three people who were harming or basically holding Jules at arrow point at the end of the last episode. We'll learn that their names are Audrey, Eater, and Rick. That's the three of them. And we see sort of a backlog of how they've been watching Jules since the moment she arrived in the silo. Anytime that she was doing something, a lot of the stuff that was happening, her rope being broken or cut, they were at the sabotage or at the behest of Audrey, sort of the wild card of the three of them. She's the angry one of them all. Rick's a little bit more level-headed, and he kind of keeps helping Jules and allow, even though Audrey is trying to get her killed, he keeps giving her a sort of a leg up to continue on because he just wants to see maybe she can help them in some way. And then Eater is the grunt of the three of them, and we sort of learn why that is as we go along. But we sort of see they have their own little community. They've been living there. They've had their own little community. They have a baby, they have a kid. Like there's youth there, and that they sort of have been around this whole time, just living there, while Solo has been living inside the vault. Now, that immediately clicked to me that those two people that were there previously, that were fresher bodies, came from this community. We learn that they were directly attached as we go along. We sort of do a flash forward to show sort of all the major key points where Jules and them connected, and then we get to the point where they ended at the last episode, where she had an arrow pointed at Jules and saying that I will put an arrow through your chest. And Jules is like, hold on, let's chat this out. Let's talk about this. I just need to talk to Solo so I can get my suit. I just need my suit. He has something of mine. She doesn't say suit. She just says, I need to get something of mine. She doesn't want to let out what it is she needs. They are like, no, you're not going to get Solo. And then they're like, okay, well, here's the deal. If you want him back so bad, go open the vault. Go open the vault. And she's like, I don't know the code. She's like, well, we'll find it out and use however many things you are. But if you're going to go, you've got enough time, as I just fed my baby, won't be hungry for a while. You got enough time till my baby wants to eat again. Second, my baby starts crying, I'm coming to pump these arrows inside of you. And she's like, take Grunt, because they don't care about Grunt. Like there's a moment where Jules is sort of holding Eater, and like pretending like she was going to kill her, and they're kind of like, no, we don't care about her enough. And so Jules kind of just lets up, like, well, I guess this isn't a good person to use as a shield or as bargaining chip. But then they tell her, like, you take her with you. We don't. This is your fault. This is her fault anyway. So you take her with you. And we sort of learn that they consistently just blame Eater for everything. Jules knows that Solo isn't dead, because if Solo was dead, they would have already killed her, and they wouldn't have actively tried to put blood out there. She realizes that they put this blood here. It wasn't Solo's blood necessarily. Like they've placed blood multiple places. I'm going to stick with 17 just to kind of brush up through all of those pieces before we switch over to what's going on with 18. As they're making their way to the vault, Eater tells Jules that, hey, I want to go outside. And Jules is like, I have one suit. Like, I don't know how else to tell you this. I got one suit, and that's going to be mine. So you can help me. I'll take your help, but you ain't getting out. Sorry. Jules asks her if she can read, and she's like, "Yeah, I can read." She's like, "Cool. Help me find anything that has either a code on it or says Russell." That's who the person who's the head of IT. Let me find that. If you can find that, I think we can maybe figure out what this code is. To that point, the eater lets her know about who those two bodies were, and they were Rick and Audrey's parents. Those two were the ones that were outside the solo. They were going there to attempt to get food to bring back, and they were going to go get food to cover the fact that they had sort of taken Eater in. They had enough food for what they already had, but because they gained Eater to their sort of community, they needed to find more food. So they went to the vault to find so, thus, and then Solo killed them. That is why Audrey and Rick, more so Audrey, blames Eater so much for the predicament that they are in without their parents. Eater finds a message that has Russell's room in it, and so they go to Russell's quarters to just start looking around and see if they can find the code there. Jules looks in the closet and then quickly closes it and kind of avoids showing Eater what it is. She's like, "Nope, I'm not gonna let you look in there." We learn later what that is, and then she brings up how were Chase and Tess, who were Rick and Audrey's parents, how are they figuring out the codes or trying to attempt to get in? Like, what did they do to think that they had the codes written down? Leader says they kept trying codes, but I don't know how it is that they kept track. Like, I don't know how they were tracking all of this. And then it clicks to Jules, crap, the chalkboard that I was using to write all my stuff on, it had a whole bunch of numbers on it being crossed out. I may be able to decipher where they were headed or which numbers they have based on that information. So let's go there and look at it. She tries to finish their logic, finish their code. She's going through it all. Um, and she thinks she has it. She basically narrows it down to six codes. But you know from this, and we learned earlier, that you only get 3 chances a day. So she attempts 2 and they're wrong. So 2 out of the 6 are incorrect. Before she puts in that third one and locks herself out of the day, because she knows if she locks herself out of the day, Audrey is not one for play. She's going to just pump a bunch of arrows in her. So she's like, well, before we completely end the day cycle with this, let's see if they'll let me talk to Solo. So let's go back and see if we can have a conversation with Solo. Before she does that, though, she kind of remembers history of her conversation with Solo and starts to place who Solo truly is. The outburst was like, "Hey, I am the IT shadow. I am the IT shadow," and why that he was so freaked out about that, but also why he was like, "I was next to the classmate in this school." So like those things don't equal out unless Solo was the IT person's son. And it all sort of clicks to her at that point. So then she asked to go to speak to Solo. She meets Rick. Luckily, she's run into Rick, and Rick's like, "Okay, sure, I will take it." Because Audrey would be like, "No, you're not staying in. I'm going to kill you both right now." But they asked to see Solo, and she uses the fact that it's like, "Hey, I've got 6 codes. I burned out 2 of them. He's the only one that knows what the actual code is. Let me at least talk to him." Jules goes to see Solo, and Solo immediately says, "Look, I failed. I failed to keep people out of the vault." Um, and Jules is like, "I assure you that no one has gotten into the vault. You did your job correctly. You did everything that you were supposed to do." She said, "Just give me the code, and I will make sure that everything works out." She then lets him know that she's aware that you were not Russell's shadow. You were Russell's son. Um, and then we see a sort of a shot of him behind the vault when the sheriff shoots his dad. And he's sort of freaking out because in this moment he just remembers and repeats the whole thing like, "Don't let anybody involved, don't let anybody involved," and that can be scarring. That can tell you why he is so adamant to not let anybody involved. He didn't do it when his father was trying to get in there, or the sheriff was trying to use his father as sort of a bargaining chip, and the sheriff at that point just straight up shot his dad in the head. But he still did not open that vault. He still did exactly what his dad asked him to do. And Jules is like, "Your dad would be proud of you. You did what he told you to do. You didn't do it as a IT shadow. You did it as his son." And he felt like, "I was a coward. I didn't help my dad. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I don't deserve to be his son." So that's why I've sort of made up this personification. We then hear the baby crying. And so Psycho Audrey is on the prowl. And she's coming. She makes it to the location where everybody's at. She's ready to just fire off. And Rick's like, "Hold on. Let's hear him out. Let's see what this is." Solo informs Rick and Audrey that their parents shot him. Um, and when they shot him, he went into the vault and broke off the handle of the door so that they couldn't get out. So they were basically in between his vault door and then the room next to it, and they couldn't get out, and they ran out of oxygen. He didn't harm them or kill them; they just ran out of air, and he locked himself in the vault. He just didn't do anything to them or to help them or to save them. And Audrey's like, "I don't believe you. I don't believe you at all." And then Jules is like, "Well, let's see if there's evidence on him of that." She lifts up his shirt and sees that there's a bullet hole in where he would have been shot, and they kind of Rick's kind of like, okay, hold on. He didn't kill our parents. He was trying to protect himself, and it sort of just happened. That takes a little bit for him, anyway. Takes a little bit of the hate or anger he has towards Solo away. Audrey's still on the fence. She says we don't need him, and Jules tells her to relax. He was only 12 when this rebellion happened. He was a 12-year-old boy, a little kid that closed himself into the vault and thought he was protecting, doing what it was best that his father asked him to do. He's not responsible for all of this. He is still a kid. Even though he's in this adult body, he's still a 12-year-old boy in that body. It's at that point that she asks Solo again, like, look, I need the code. They have a baby. And for him, he's like, they have a baby. And so that innocence, him being a 12-year-old kid, she sort of speaks to that, to the childlike factor of him. And sort of he then is like, okay, I will go open the code. I will go open the vault for them. So he takes that whole community of Rick, Audrey, Eater, the baby, and then whatever little 5, 7-year-old they have with him, as well as Jules. And he opens up the door and he shows them this world that he's sort of been living in this vault. We get to see all the relics in there. We get to see everything. And he's living almost like vicariously as a child, saying, hey, you guys ever listen to music? Let's play some music. And they put on music. They don't know what the hell music is, not in this world, but he plays it because he would know what it is being behind the vault. As a relic, they wouldn't. So he plays it for them, and sort of he has opened himself up to this community and opened himself up to this world where he now is no longer alone, and he sort of has a family that is there with him. He's peddling off soup. He's doing everything he can. Like, I got people here finally. I'm gonna show y'all. I'm gonna show y'all the ropes of what makes a good life here in the vault. He then takes Jules off to the side and says, here's your suit. She then says, this isn't the only one, is it? And he's like, you found the other one. I know. I'm a dick. um, I needed to have you think this was the only one so that you would do what it is that you did to help me out. I'm sorry. And then he thinks a minute. It's like, hold on. If you knew that the other suit was there, this is what she found in the closet earlier in this episode. If you knew the suit was there, why did you still come back to help me? And just shows, and he puts his sort of hand on her to just say, like, I appreciate you. Jules could have left, and she didn't, because she could easily have taken Eater out, put that suit on, and just dipped. She wanted to make sure and go back to Solo to make sure that he still was not going to be in a bad way, because she knew at that point he wasn't dead yet. She needed to see him out of that, and he truly responded and respected that. And he sort of put his arm on her and was like, "That's his way of saying thank you." She's like, "I'm not going to leave you," but now she's going to put that suit on and get the hell out of Dodge. And so I would imagine in this next episode we're going to see her make that trek over to 18. Oh, 18. 18 is a fun little spot. We start off with Lucas catching Bernard up about what he's deciphering. He says, hey, I learned from Quinn that there are 50 silos, and Bernard's rebuttal is like, there's actually 51. I don't know why there's an odd number or whatnot, but there's actually 51 silos. But he's like, the silos, the number of silos, that's not what Quinn wants us to know. There's more. So keep digging. You're getting close, but keep digging into whatever it is that we're supposed to be finding out. Lucas continues on. He finds out, like, if there's a point that says the tunnel, find the tunnel, you will get the confirmation. You will get confirmation. So he's continuing to do his deciphering. Meanwhile, down below, Billings and his wife are just pondering life. They're just trying to figure out things. Again, as I said in the last episode, Billings has very much been unplugged from the Matrix, and now things are sort of being like, I don't understand my purpose or what it is that I'm doing in life. His wife is kind of like, I understand that it's illegal to have an image of the outside, but people deserve to know the truth. Like, they deserve to see this image. The people deserve to know this image. She also knows that Billings is uneasy about what he's going to do next and about knowing the truth. Like, going against the pact is not something that he's sort of been built to do. But Billings realizes that he wasn't picked for this job because he was the best man for the job. He was picked for this job because he follows the company line. He is a following the rule person. They know that no matter what is done, he's going to do exactly what it is he's supposed to do by the pact. And that can be used. He says that time is done. He's not doing that anymore. And he relays this to Shirley and Knox. And Shirley's kind of like, well, what good is that does now? You blabbered to them through the radio that you're going to launch an investigation, thus ending communication. So you can't get in touch with them. Even if you have deputies that are in line with you, you can't get in touch with them. So what good do you do us? To that point, then Knox and Shirley's like, well, maybe we can reach out to Camille, Sims's wife, because she did sort of extend us an olive branch to say if we needed something, maybe that is our way to get a message up to the people. Luke tries to find Bernard about the tunnel piece that he's deciphered, but he gets stonewalled. Amundsen kind of lets him know that, like, you're not going to get in contact with him for quite some time. He's asked to not be disturbed till this evening, so sorry. We learned that Bernard is basically watching footage of Walker this whole time, so he's just in there, not coming out. So Luke is like, cool, I'm going to go do this on my own. So he makes the trek down the silo by himself. While Bernard is watching, Knox comes in to tell Walker, like, hey, we have a plan to do yada, yada, yada. And the plan is to basically get up there with the sheriff's help and to get McLean out. Like, we're going to bust McLean out and set her free, which sort of breaks Walker because Walker didn't think that anybody down there cared enough about getting McLean. That's just why she made this rash decision to help out Bernard in the way that she has. She didn't think that they cared or they were going to do this, and so now she's kind of like, well, crap, what have I done? She could have just relied on them to help get her wife back. Bernard then sends a message to Walker to say, hey, I couldn't quite make out what the plan is. Do you know what the plan is totally of what they're going to do? And she's like, no, I'm stuck in here. You got me locked, tied into this room, so I can't get that information. They're not, unless they come in here, I'm not going to get that. And she's like, well, cool. Don't leave that room. They'll come to you. As he's going down the silo, Lucas makes a pit stop to his mom, who thought he was in the mines, basically dead. Did not realize that he was a shadow or anything. But he says to her, like, look, I was a coward before, and that has led me to what was in the mine, that led me to sort of dismissing what it is that Nichols was saying. I put my head in the sand like an ostrich, and I just didn't want to see what could be. And after Nichols opened up my eyes, and now I've been in this world, and I can't do that anymore. I'm steadfast. I have to continue on to see this through. He asked her to hold on to the book that he's deciphered. He's like, look, keep this in a safe place. People are going to come looking for it, but just hide it so that no one, including yourself or me, can find it. And then he continues his trek down the silo. Lucas goes below 119, and there's some folks there that are like, nah, you can't come down here. He flashes his shadow badge, but that still don't really do him any favors down there. And he invokes Jules's name and George, her boyfriend, and they kind of like, okay, you did know Jules in some way. So they handcuff him to the railing coming down the silo, where Shirley comes to talk to him. Shirley comes have a convo with him just to be like, hey, what the hell are you doing down here? To that point that Lucas says, I think Jules could still be alive, which is enough to get Shirley to unlock him and sort of like, let's go have a conversation. Meanwhile, up top, Bernard is trying to sully Billings' name with his deputies. The plan is to strip him of his badge and then leave the post vacant. So they're not going to be a sheriff. And he also then wants the deputies to create another prison cell holding area in the cafeteria on that floor. So apparently Bernard's planning to arrest a whole bunch of people and hold them. But he's basically getting to the deputies before any note from Billings can come up to them. He wants to turn them against him preemptively. The message for Billings to Camille makes its way, and Sims comes down to meet him. They have a conversation between the gate. They don't, but Billings wants everybody to sort of leave. He's like, look, what I'm about to give you is about to open up a can of worms. I need to just tell this to you. And so he gives him the image, like, look, don't open it here. Open it later. But take this image. Once you see what's in this image, I'm going to need you to go do me a favor. Once you see what's in this relic, once you look at this relic, you'll have no choice but to trust me, and I have no choice but to trust you. Lucas and Shirley go to in the first season. There was a spot that George and Jules always met at to hang out when they were in their relationship, a courting spot where he showed her relics and all that stuff. They go to that location, and Lucas opens up to Shirley like I kind of had a crush on Jules, and I tried to make a move, and she's Shirley's like, I'm sure that didn't go well. I was like, nope, didn't know about George and any of that stuff, and kind of bit me in my ass, but that did not stop me from being in awe of her, but not enough awe to protect her or to stop her or to learn from her to help her. And I should have done more for Nichols. I'm doing so now. Lucas then says, like, I have a feeling that the tunnels that this book is talking about are below where mechanical is, like below all of this. It's like there's tons of water down there. It's like I have a feeling that that water is pretty shallow, and I'm willing to bet my life on it. He's at this point now where he has done so much of being the coward of everything. He is willing to go gung ho, blazing first into whatever fire he can. Knox puts two and two together that the leak is coming from Walker because that's the only person that sort of knew the plan. um, uh, and so he goes to her and, in a coded way, tells her that he knows it's her. And he's like, no punishment will come to you because I know you've been compromised and I know you did this to do what's best for McLean, not using the names, but basically hiding it, knowing that he's being watched. And then he feeds her a bull crap plan, so that plan is what Bernard is watching and going by. But basically, he says we're going to take the gunpowder that we got from supply to push on. BS plan. Rob goes back to Camille and shares the relic with her, and she's like, "Well, okay, this changes everything. What are we doing?" She's like, "I think it might be time to pick a side." And Rob is kind of like, "Well, I can't be the one to talk to the deputies because they don't like me. So no matter what I come to them with, they're not going to respect or take it well from me." And Camille's like, "Cool, I will go chat with them. I will go talk to them." Rob says, "There's also a key that lights up." And I saw it happen when Nichols was first announced as the sheriff. I followed Bernard into the server room when Nichols was made, but I don't know where that key is, but we need to find that key. Lucas then takes the plunge, and as he's about to get in and go take the rope down to jump into the water, he tells Shirley, like, "Look, I think Nichols is still alive. Um, I have it in good faith that she made it to another silo, and the camera just gave out, but she was alive when she got to that silo. That's all I know." And then he starts making his way down. Lucas then drops into the water, and it looks like, oh, he's drowning, suffocating, and then he just stands up, and the water is shallow. He kind of laughs it off, like, I knew it. Again, another mind game that these folks in the silo sort of make to say, hey, your fear of water, your fear of swimming, because we don't teach anybody to swim, so nobody's going to go down there. But your fear of whatever it is that is, you're not going to go in that water because it's too deep for you, and you will die. So Lucas stands up, then he goes and finds a tunnel entry, and he goes in. As he gets there, a voice comes in and says, "Lucas Kyle, why are you here?" And then he says, "I was given instructions by Salvador Quinn." The voice then says, "Before you, there were only three people that made it down here before. It was Salvador Quinn, Mary Meadows, and George Wilkins. I never got to speak to George Wilkins, so I don't have a conversation with him. But I did speak to both Meadows and Quinn. If you speak with anyone about this conversation, we will have to initiate the safeguard. Do you know what the safeguard is, Kyle?" And he says, "I do." And that is how the episode ends. We'll say that whatever the safeguard is, it is not something for play, because both Quinn and Meadows went a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs once they were told what the safeguard was, or that they were going to initiate the safeguard. Like whatever happened down there drove Meadows to drink. It's also kind of cool that Meadows went through this entire path, and that is what led her to, one, not want to be a shadow anymore, but two, led her to see in Lucas I see that if I at least drop this seed to you, you're going to get to that path on your own. Like you will get there. So that is why she sort of released that, took him out the mines and put him on that path and gave him that seed. She saw it in him what he was going to do. What is that voice? I don't know. It sounds very robotic. I feel like the 51st silo is probably an area that has just been watching it's just literally a guy that's just watching all the other silos. It sounds very robotic. Thus, I think it might be AI related. Can't get a real read on it. We won't know because it's sort of coming out of nowhere. But because it seems so omnipotent, and I imagine it's probably doing the same thing to other silos if other people are getting to this point in their silo, that it is sort of just a safeguard or a fail-safe that sort of works with AI. I'm curious to see what it is the safeguard is or what it's telling them because it clearly puts the fear of God into anyone, except for George, who didn't have that conversation, which is why he didn't fear shit. What did you guys think about this episode? I think there was a lot to unpack here. It's probably the most dense episode that we've had since probably the first two episodes of the season. Um, I'll say this: I'm going to stick by with what I said before. I still did not necessarily care about Audrey, Rick, and Eater. Like they still don't mean anything. And I think if we had done that piece of it earlier, and then maybe going away from Jules for a little bit, I would have appreciated the speed of which the stuff that was on the team was happening. I do like how we sort of have given Solo an arc of Coda to say, hey, even though he seemed like the crazy person, he's just a 12-year-old boy in that body and he just got scared. And Jules sort of gave him the moment to sort of release that and say, it's not your fault. You did what you're supposed to do. And sort of set him free before she heads off into her next adventure. Good episode. A lot to sort of get to in 18 to sort of see what move Camille and Rob make, what Paul decides to finally buck up and get off the horse and actually do something, and to see exactly what happens to Lucas now that his brain has sort of been expanded. Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on X at hollywoodadi. You can hit us up on email at hollywoodalreadydid@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the place podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.